For about 30 years, video games adaptations were the punchline of Hollywood. Not because the games weren't good enough. Some of the best stories ever told live inside video games, but characters people have spent hundreds of hours with, worlds built with more love and detail than most movie franchises ever manage. The punchline was that Hollywood kept taking these stories and basically making something nobody recognized out of them. I mean, they had bad casting, they had worse scripts, everything that made people care about the game, it was stripped out. It was replaced with something safer, something more, generic. And, then something shifted. We had The Last of Us, Arcane, Fallout, a Minecraft movie crossing $1 billion at the box office. And now we have Zelda confirmed for 2027. I mean, this genre that used to be Hollywood's running joke is now producing Emmy winners. Cultural moments, shows that make people want to go back and play the game. So what changed? I mean, that's what we're talking about today. And the answer matters, not just for video games, but for what happens to any story when business priorities get in the way of creativity. We begin in 1993. Jurassic Park was roaring through the box office. The Intel Pentium processor was born. Doom would forever change gaming. The X-Files, Animaniacs, and Power Rangers premiered on TV. Then, on May 28, 1993, Super Mario Bros., the movie, arrived in theaters. Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, and a weird dystopian fungal city that had almost, nothing to do with the game, except the character names. I mean, no big surprise that it bombed. I mean, critics hated it. Fans hated it. And, Nintendo was so burned by the experience that they refused to license their games to Hollywood for the next 30 years. The next 30 years. One bad movie locked the world's most beloved game company at the time out of Hollywood for 3 decades. But Nintendo wasn't wrong to be cautious, because what followed across multiple studios, multiple games, multiple decades was just more of the same generic stuff. The pattern was almost identical every time. Studio buys a beloved game, hires writers who never played it. Writers decide the source material needs to be updated for a general audience, and then the characters get changed. The story gets stripped down. The things fans actually loved got sanded off until what's left is something smoother, safer, and, to be honest, completely unforgettable. And here's the result. Movies came out, fans hated it, casual audiences shrugged, box office disappoints, and everyone blames the IP. But the IP was never the problem. The problem was how Hollywood thought about what they were buying. I mean, they treated video games like any other brand they'd acquired. A recognizable name, a built-in audience, some visual iconography they could borrow. All those things to a studio executive, those are assets. The actual story, the characters people fell in love with, the reason millions of people cared, those were the details. And Hollywood felt they were adjustable, replaceable. And for 30 years, that thinking produced exactly the result you would expect. So the moment things started to shift is actually earlier than most people think, okay? So stick with me here. In 2019, Detective Pikachu. Not the most obvious choice for a turning point, not an awards juggernaut, but Detective Pikachu was the first major studio video game adaptation in a long time that actually tried to understand what fans loved about the source material. And they built a movie around that understanding. It was faithful, it was fun, it respected the world it came from, and, it made $450 million worldwide. So naturally, Hollywood noticed. But here's the thing, and this is important. Faithfulness alone isn't actually the answer. The lesson from Detective Pikachu wasn't just be loyal to source material and you'll succeed. No, the lesson was actually much deeper. Understand what you're adapting before you decide to translate it. Because different games, they need different approaches. Think about The Last of Us. The Last of Us is practically a movie already. Naughty Dog, the developers, were known for cinematic games with rich characters, emotional storytelling, designed to feel like something you watch as much as something you play. Adapting it closely made complete sense. Fallout is completely different. It's a role play game. There's no single story everyone played, no one character the audience followed for 20 hours. It's a whole world built around player choice, moral gray areas, and consequences that change depending on what you decide. Creative freedom was actually the right call for that one, as long as it adheres to the rules of the world it happens in, because that's what Fallout is. Okay, let's look at Halo. Halo, on the other hand, is a decades-long linear story with a specific beloved hero at the center. Fans have known Master Chief and had a relationship with him since 2001. The rules are different, the expectations are different, and as we'll get into, ignoring that difference was a huge disaster. The real pattern isn't always about being faithful. The real pattern is know what you have before you start changing it. For 30 years, Hollywood skipped that step. And the first time someone proved it didn't have to be that way. I mean, it happened because two people inside a gaming company refused to hand the thing they loved to someone who didn't. Now, I want to spend some real time on Arcane because the backstory is just as good as the show itself. I mean, Arcane is an animated series set in the League of Legends universe. It won 4 Emmy Awards. It hit #1 on Netflix in 85 countries. It's considered one of the best video game adaptations ever made by just about anyone who's seen it. I mean, here's how it got made. In 2015, 2 Riot Games employees had an idea for a TV show. This wasn't a studio exec or a showrunner, not a development team. 2 people who worked at the company knew the game inside and out and loved the characters they'd spent years helping to build. Christian Link was a data analyst turned creative director. Alex Yee, well, he was a game designer. Neither of them had ever made a TV show, but what they had was genuine love for the material. Link described why they made it in the simplest way possible. For us, we love the game. We wanted to see those characters come alive. That's it. That's enough to say this should exist for ourselves. And so Riot took a chance on them. And here's what separates Arcane from almost every other adaptation in this conversation. Riot paid for the whole thing themselves. They didn't hand the IP to a big studio and hope for the best. They didn't sell the rights and let someone else make the calls. They self-financed the entire production, spending $250 million across the 2 seasons. And it was all because they wanted to keep creative control. Now, was that a smart financial decision? Well, probably not exactly for Riot Games. I mean, they only got back at about maybe half of what they spent through their deal with Netflix. But Riot co-founder Mark Merrill explained the thinking perfectly. These people think we make things like Arcane to sell skins. In reality, we sell skins to make things like Arcane. Now, Riot wasn't thinking or making a show to squeeze money out of a popular IP. They were making a show because people inside the company cared deeply about these characters and wanted to do right by them. And that is the whole difference here. When people watch Arcane and call it authentic, and people use that word constantly when they talk about it, what they're really saying is, this doesn't feel like someone trying to take something from me. It feels like someone who loved this as much as I do and worked incredibly hard to honor that. That feeling isn't accidental. It's the direct result of who made it and why they made it, and really the fact that they loved it. I mean, creativity and their passion created loyalty for that show. Arcane built loyalty. Yes, it did. People watched it twice. They recommended it to friends who had never touched League of Legends. There are people who love that animated show who never even played League of Legends to this day, but they're still talking about it years later. Okay, so if Arcane is what happens when you get it right, Halo is what happens when you follow the old playbook in the modern era. I mean, Halo had everything a studio could want. 2 decades of games, a massive, passionate fan base, one of the most iconic characters in gaming history. Paramount Plus's Halo series was canceled, though, after 2 seasons. And here's what went wrong. Season 1 made a series of choices that fans experienced as a fundamental misunderstanding of what Halo is. I mean, Master Chief, whose mystery, whose faceless armor, whose stoic presence is the whole point of the character. And, well, he had his helmet removed in the first episode. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't have removed his helmet at all, but let's build up to it, right? I mean, imagine the first 2 episodes, you don't see Master Chief's face at all. Then do a big build up and reveal in episode 3. Make it special, make it a big payoff. Isn't that what fans would want? And also in the series, there was a romantic subplot that was introduced that felt completely out of place for the character. And, well, Cortana, one of the most important relationships in the entire gaming franchise, got pushed to the side. The Covenant, the alien enemy the game spent 20 years building into a real threat, well, they barely registered. Hardly part of the show. And fans gave the first season an expected 52% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics thought it was fine, but fans felt like they were watching something that looked like Halo on the outside, but had no idea what made Halo matter. And season 2 genuinely did improve. The show course corrected. They listened to some of the feedback and made some real changes, but it was way too late. The damage was done. The fans who should have been its foundation had already left. And, well, no big surprise here. The show was canceled. And here's what makes this so frustrating. Halo wasn't bad television. Talented people worked on it. The budget was real, reportedly $10 million per episode in season 1. The studio just didn't understand what it was adapting. I mean, if you had called the show by a different name without the Halo connection, you probably would have had a solid sci-fi series, at least for a few seasons. But instead, they borrowed the Halo name, the look, the weapons, the ships, and, well, basically missed the part underneath all of that. The relationship between Chief and Cortana, the mythology fans have been invested in for over 20 years, the specific feeling of being in that universe that no other game quite replicates. I mean, the audience could feel it was missing. And they were now operating in the same era as shows like Arcane and The Last of Us, shows that had gotten it right in ways that made the gap impossible to ignore. The old playbook really doesn't work anymore. The bar is too high. The audience has seen what's possible. And, well, Halo paid the price for following the rules that the rest of the industry was mostly leaving behind already. Let me take this as simple as I can. I mean, for 30 years, Hollywood kept asking the wrong question. The question they asked was, how do we turn this popular game into a movie or a show? And really, the question they should have been asking was, why do people love this game, and how do we honor that? That's it. That's the whole shift. I mean, when you start with, how do we turn this into something, you end up with something generic. Something that has the name and the look, but basically loses the feeling. Something fans don't recognize and casual viewers just don't care about. I mean, when you start with, why do people love this? You end up with Arcane. You end up with The Last of Us or Fallout. You end up with people recommending your shows to their friends at midnight. The studios that got it right stopped seeing games as brands to borrow from. They started seeing them as stories worth understanding. I mean, Riot spent $250 million and kept creative control because they understood that. The people who made The Last of Us sat with the game, respected what it was, tapped talent who had worked on the game, and translated it with care. That's not a business strategy. That's a creative choice. And it's the only thing that actually works. The IP may get people in the door, but understanding, genuine, honest, earned understanding of why the material matters, that's what makes people stay. Okay, so here's the good news. I mean, we are at the beginning of something genuinely exciting for the genre. The pipeline is full. I mean, we have Zelda coming in 2027, Ghost of Tsushima to follow that, BioShock at Netflix, Mass Effect in development at Amazon, and so many more on the way. And now we have a solid template for success, a clear, documented, proven model for how to do this right. Make it with people who love it. Give them room to do the work properly. Trust that the things fans loved about the game is the thing general audiences will love about the show. And that's all. I mean, the studios that follow that model are going to produce some of the best storytelling of the next decade, in my book. I mean, the ones that fall back on the old playbook that see a popular IP and try to extract the value without doing the creative work, well, they're going to keep wondering why nobody showed up. I mean, the games are already great. The stories are already there, and Hollywood just has to care enough to get out of the way. So what I really want to know is, what games do you think Hollywood is likely to get right next? And which ones are you most worried about? Drop it in the comments below and let's have a conversation about it. And as always, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it and I earned your support today, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your fellow geeks, gamers, and everyone else. And, as always, stay geeky, my friends, stay geeky, and I'll see you all later.